Welcome back to another video. My name is Brian Hafferkamp, and I am a game designer and creator. In this video, I'm just going to quickly introduce a new golf game that I've been working on. I didn't necessarily set out to do it, but for some reason it triggered inside of me that I should maybe try a golf game. I love playing golf. I haven't played for many years, but was a mid 70s golfer in my younger days and just sort of self-taught, and my family plays golf, so I think I picked up the love of the game, and when I was in college played a lot of golf. And I was looking at some of the golf games on the market, APBA and ASG, and there's a Dice Nuts golf game as well, and a couple of others that I've become aware of. Seems like the choices on the market are highly detailed, shot by shot, lots of everything but golf. And then there's just, roll some dice and get a score. So there's not a lot in between. I'm finding that most of my games lie in that in-between space. So I'm not sure if it's foolishness or if it's creating, tapping into a market. Hopefully it's tapping into a market of people, but it could be like politics. They call it the third rail there are things that are like the third rail of politics, immigration, some other things that you just don't touch, right? You just don't mess with. So hopefully I don't get eaten by a gator trying to be in the middle and not on the edges. So we got a golf game here, and this is going to be one of the example holes. The game is super fast, actually. I think you would be able to play a tournament with individuals, shot by shot, because the holes move so quickly. You would need either one set of 2d6 dice that you roll multiple times, or I like to, if you can have, two sets of d6 dice, and you can just roll all four at the same time, you can knock out each shot. Each shot requires two sets of d6 dice. So you can see here we have one roll along the y-axis, one roll along the x-axis. We have our hole laid out here. This would be hole number 1, par 4, 400 yards. The red shows you the area here that you're going to wind up teeing off into. So you would hit it off the tee, and then from the tee, that's going to tell you how you should shoot your approach shot. On a par 4, obviously you're hitting it here and your approach is straight to the green. So on a par 5, it's a little bit different. I'll show you that. I've created 5 holes, so I can sort of mix and match and create and just play them over and over. But I do plan, obviously, to make entire courses. So on the approach shot, you can see different pin placements. It should feel somewhat familiar to you. I think in other games like ASG and APBA, they have multiple pin placements if you're playing a tournament style play. So we have multiple pin placements. This represents an image, sort of you have to think about this as a very abstracted look at golf. So those games are more realistic in terms of you see the course and you sort of like maneuvering your way through the course. You're actually making your way through this picture. But in this, you can see it's just a lot of graphs and stuff like that. So it's sort of an abstracted view, and it's abstracted because of the percentages of hitting each thing. So this light colored area, hopefully you can see it okay on this screen. Zoom in a little bit. So this light colored area and then there's a mid color, and then there's a dark color. The dark color is obviously at the corners, which is going to be very rare to hit on those. The darker areas represent something that is less common, and then the lighter areas in the middle are going to be your most common rolls. So your most common rolls here are going to be 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, and so those find their center here. So between this roll and this roll, your most common rolls are going to sort of cross at the middle. So this diamond shape represents the most rolls. So you have anywhere between really between 5 and 5, and then between 10 and 10. That's going to give you sort of the meat of your rolls. You'll find that most of your rolls wind up in there. And so just sort of trying to play the percentages of actual golf. I've gone through lots of stats for particular courses, and just trying to see, you know, how difficult is the putting, because these two represent the green. So a short putt, a long putt, so anything over 10 feet. If you need to chip off of the fairway, or out of, like, let's say you hit it here into the fringe, or into the rough, which is the dark areas, you would need to chip. And then there's a few opportunities here. Maybe you can't see these light colored ones, a few light colored ones. I didn't print this as dark as normal because it's just kind of a test copy. So it's just the economy printing is what my printer calls it. And then here you have a long putt, and there are some opportunities to make it, but you can see the most common rolls. So 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, where those meet are not going to be a make on a long putt, but they are a make on a short putt. And there's also some sort of fringe ones that you can't make. So I'm trying to just sort of meet the percentages of long putts being made and short putts being made and stuff like that. All right, so let me just walk through, because there's a few things, some numbers, you see some lines here, you know, what do those mean? Obviously off the tee you have the yardage. So these two are going to be less common, and so most of them are going to come between 310 and 290, which the tour average right now is about 298 or 300 yards off the tee. So, you know, this is really built for the modern game. I would have to really think about how to modify for a golfer, let's say back in the 60s or the 70s, where, you know, maybe they're maxing out at like 290. They're maxing out these days at like 340. So it's quite a difference in strength of the golfer, design of the course, the clubs that they're using, so all that kind of stuff. So the first shot, I'm going to take these first and these second. So this would be a pretty rare shot, actually. So you would have a 2-2. So you just cross-reference the 2s, and then they would meet here in this bunker. So a long shot, 350 yards, but it rolls into the bunker here. So this area here is trying to give you a snapshot. So you can hit the edge of the bunker here, or you can hit the edge of the bunker here. So that happens to be a long shot, 350 yards, but in the sand. You can see up here there's a 0, a +1, and a +2. That just means it's basically the roll that you're going to add. So on the next shot, you're going to either add 0, +1, or +2. Now because you're hitting out of the sand, there's a lot of rules I haven't quite figured out yet. Should I take one? Should I add +1? You know, there's some different things, because there should be maybe some penalty for having to hit out of the sand, although it's probably not as big a deal for a tour player to be hitting out of the sand. They're pretty great, actually. You watch golf. So second shot here, we're going to use the approach. So now we have a 9, 10. So let's just play this straight up where there's no sort of penalty over here or addition. So we got a 0 here, so we got a 9, 10, and a 9, 10, and we're shooting at the black one. The black one is going to be sort of your first round, or the default. It's easy to see. So 9 and 10, 9 and 10 meet right here. So you can see you're off the green. Hopefully you can see that there's a color differentiation here. So the next one over is light green, and this one's kind of a medium green. So because it's off the green, you're going to use the sand chip for your third shot. So now you got to get up and down from off the green. So we have an 8, 11, 8 and 11 meet right here. So this square just missed the chip in, and anything inside the light green is going to be for the short putt. Anything inside the dark green out on the edges would be a long putt. So we have a short putt to get up and down for par. We have a 7, 10, that's going to be good. So 7 and 10 meet right here. That's inside the light green, and that's a par save. So the tee shot was into the bunker. Second shot was onto the fringe on the right side of the green. We had a chip up, a short putt, and up and down for the par. So you can see that it plays pretty quickly. So, well, that's hole number 2. I had them on the front and back. So hole number 2, a dog leg to the left, par 5, 525 yards. So this is going to be your landing area. Again, you got a little bit of an opportunity to clip it into the sand. Again, the red lines represent anything above that is no penalty, because the idea is you can put some more spin on the ball, or you can put some more height on the ball because your shot is not as far. So that's sort of the idea. So when you can't put as much spin or height or trajectory on the shot, naturally you're going to have more roll, right? You're going to have more carry, more roll. And so adding 1 or adding 2 pushes it this way, which means it's going to be a shorter shot. So I just trying to like match things. It wasn't about the roll. It's about the length of the shot, right? So just trying to see how you can match those things up. Now here we have a par 5, so this is the first shot off the tee. The approach on par 5, this is going to represent the fairway, sort of the darker colors here, the mid-dark color. We got our bunkers, which is this bunker here on the approach. We have some rough, so the rough is going to be sort of in the outer edges of the green, and then we have our greens here. So it is possible to hit the green in 2. The most likely shot is going to be that you're going to wind up in the fairway with your second shot, or in a bunker. So that's going to be your most likely position to be in. But it is possible to hit the green, and on this, when you're going for the red, you can get close to the pin more easily than the others. So it's possible if you were to roll right onto the square with the circle, then you have to do a roll for knocking it in. Usually I'm saying like you have to roll 2 12s to hit it in. For that would be a double eagle if on your second shot you were to do that. Obviously that's, it's akin to a hole-in-one. So it's going to be a very rare occurrence. So you'd have to roll 2 12s in order to knock it in. Otherwise, it becomes a short putt, and then you just use this, and that would be a putt for eagle. So just trying to really think through an economy of space that we can put everything on one page, make it big enough for everybody to be able to see, or to even put little markers on here. And also, realistic to the game of golf. What would be a realistic play for a PGA professional. So First shot off the tee, a 310. 310 is here. And so that's the first cut of rough, but out to 340 yards, so quite a drive. I don't have any penalties set out for the rough yet, but that would be coming. There would be a little bit of a something that you would need to add to the next roll in order to do that. Maybe it's one block to the right or something like that. So now we have a 510. So there's a 0 here, so we're not adding anything. So 510 would be into the sand trap here in the front right. So 510, so we're gonna have to chip it up onto the green, and this is a sand save situation. So 11-4 puts us to a short putt. So that's first shot, second shot into the sand trap, third shot chipped up on the green, and so we have a short putt for a birdie. So an 8-7 is going to do it. So 8 and 7 is right here, sort of in the middle, and that would be up and down for birdie. Another par 4 here. Same thing, tee, your approach shot. You have your sand, your chip, and your greens. So you can see this one has heavily guarded by bunkers. There's sand all around, and you got your 4 pin positions. This is the one that we'd be shooting for. So a 5-6 center of the fairway, 320 yards out. We're going to add 1 to this roll on the next roll. So 3-4, 4-11. 4-11 is going to be in the sand. So sort of back here, we've overshot the green. We're in the sand on this back right bunker. We need to chip. So the penalty for chipping is that there are fewer opportunities to hit it into the hole. If it was a long putt, there'd be more opportunities. If it's a short putt, there'd be even more opportunities to make it. So just sort of trying to play the percentages here. 5-3. 5-3 is all the way over here. That's going to lead us to a short putt. So up and down, this will be par. A 7-5, and that's going to be in. So that would be a par save from the sand on hole number 3. We go to hole number 4. This is our first par 3. A par 3 has fewer shots because your initial shot off the tee is going to be an approach shot, right, onto the green. So we just sort of eliminate one of those shots. We got a 6-5, and 6-5 is here. So when you're within 2 blocks of the circle of the hole, that puts you to the short shot. So if you're somewhere out here where you're farther, 1, 2, you just kind of count 1, 2, and then there's a square all around it, two squares each way. If you're outside of that, then you're going to use the long putt. If you're inside of 2 squares, so 1, 2, then you're going to use the short putt. So pretty easy. So 5, what is it? 6-5. So 6-5. So hole pin high and a little bit to the left, but it's 1, 2. So we're within 2. So this is going to be a short putt for a birdie. You got a 6-8. 6 and 8 is center cup, and that's going to be a birdie. So a nice approach shot on that one. You can see there's sand on either side, which is represented here. And you got a little bit of rough and some deeper rough back here. Got another par 4. This one's 450 yards. So these are just all the holes that I've created. This would be the Georgia course. Actually, we did that one, huh? 3, 4. The last one is a par 5. So this is 500 yards. Sort of wide open. throughout. No bunkers around the green. So your approach shot, it's a little less reachable for some people. So it's, even if you hit it out here, you're at 150 to the green. But out here, you're still 200 yards to the green. Maybe you're going to miss it. So it's not that it's not approachable, just trying to make it a little bit more realistic with the scoring. So we have a 5-6 off the tee. That's going to be dead center, 320 yards, which leaves us 180 to the pin, to the center of the green, I guess. So 5 plus 1 is 6, 6, and that puts you dead in the middle of the fairway. And third shot is going to be a chip, so a 5-8, 5-8. So that's going to put us to a short shot here. So this is our fourth shot on a par 5. That's going to be a short putt for a birdie, and 6-7 is going to be right in there. And so that's a birdie on the par 5. So not the toughest hole in the world. There's not a lot of hazards or anything like that. You do have a little bit of it's sort of deep rough out here. And then you have the fairway. And then onto the green. It's going to be more difficult to get it onto the green in 2. But most golfers are going to be able to go up and down on that pretty well. So that is the game. It doesn't have any name or anything yet. And what I'm imagining for the golfers is that the golfers have ratings for each of these. So off the tee, they're going to have a rating. They're going to have a rating for distance, and they'll have a rating for accuracy. Accuracy would be left or right. Right? Do they have a tendency to hook the ball? Do they have a tendency to slice the ball? What's their normal ball path? And then they're going to have an approach rating, which is going to affect the approach shot. They'll have a sand or chip rating, and then they'll have putting ratings, which are going to affect everything. So just some sort of basic categories, but they're going to be able to affect these different things that they're doing here. And then obviously there are going to be some penalties for having to hit out of the deep rough or the intermediate rough, as opposed to hitting out of the fairway. I've considered doing some things for lies and maybe sort of some advanced options. I think once I get this into the hands of people to play, more ideas will come. That's almost always what happens. So I can ship these out and people can play it and think about that. I don't have any water yet. That would also obviously have to be some sort of a shot penalty for going into the water, and then figuring out, where's the ball going to be dropped that you're going to hit from. So, yeah, I think that's it for now. So maybe, I don't know if I'll use real PGA golfers or golfers from the past or current golfers or anything like that. Maybe leave that up to people if they want to do those things, but at least have some fictional golfers that you could use with different sorts of ratings. That way, sometimes using fictional players helps to mitigate expectations. We'll put it that way. It helps to mitigate expectations. Rating players when you don't have stats is a tricky business. So there's a lot of stats today for golf, and a lot of stats historically. I think for particular golf courses like Augusta or TPC at Sawgrass, there's like huge courses, Bethpage and stuff like that. So sometimes there's just not very good data, at least that I can find, for golfers themselves and For me, rating golfers outside of data would mean just watching everybody a lot. I remember watching golf in the 90s and the early 2000s, and I remember the golfers, but they're in your mind. You don't. Can I rate Phil Mickelson? Probably. I know what his reputation is, but what is it actually? What do the numbers say? So sometimes people's, you're only seeing Sunday for the most part. You're not watching their round 1, 2, and 3. Occasionally you might see round 3, but most of the time, most of us are only paying attention on Sundays. So, what was he really like? Tiger's great, and he was amazing on Sunday. What was he like on, Thursday and Friday? That's kind of what you're trying to get at is who was the golfer for real. And so the data will tell you that, but don't have a lot of that to go on from what I can see so far, and I'll dig a little bit more. But just creating fictional players who represent like a power player or a finesse player, an accuracy player, that kind of thing. So trying to sort of work those ratings in to make sure that those players are that type of player. Creating female golfers, I think, who will be able to, they can hit the ball out there. 250 to 300 for sure. I don't know how many are hitting 350, but I haven't really kept up with ladies golf, so I don't really know. If you have any thoughts on this or anything just right offhand that looks like that could be an improvement. The golf game is literally at its infancy and beginning stages, so this was just an idea I had, and I thought there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than what's out there. I certainly appreciate the past. I appreciate what people have done in the past, and it's a lot of hard work that goes into making games. So I'm never going to say that that's crap or anything like that. There are games that have serviced the market well, and people obviously love them. They're always playing the golf games, and so maybe just trying to think outside the box a little bit. And some people might call this arcade, which I think is supposed to mean something bad about my games, but I like arcade games. They move quickly, they're easy to get in and out of, and they're just there to have fun. And so I actually kind of like that term for my games, but I think it's supposed to be meant as a derogatory term, like it's lesser or something like that. But my games are just a little bit more arcadian. This one is no different. I'm obviously abstracting a lot and cutting out a lot of things. You're not able to make choices about where you shoot or that kind of stuff like you can do on those other games. I think that they do them great. And if you want to do the math and all that kind of stuff, I watch about 3 minutes of it, and I can't do it anymore. I imagine playing it is probably a little bit more fun, but it's too much going on when it takes 7-8 minutes to play a hole. I don't have that kind of time. So making golfs for those of us in the middle of life who want to play but just don't have a ton of time, you could see that you can make it through 18 holes pretty quickly. I've also used an online dice roller app that I have, and so using that, I don't know that it speeds up the process or anything like that, but it certainly shrinks the footprint. You wouldn't need as much space to roll and stuff like that. So it would definitely be, you would be able to play this game with an app like that you could use offline. You could play on a plane. Obviously, you just put this on the tray and have some way to keep score. It could be just a little piece of scratch paper that you keep your score, and you just flip through the pages of the course. You could definitely play on a plane. So ultra portable, very small footprint, especially compared to some of these other games that have like massive books, that you would have to, I don't even know if you could fit that book onto the tray of the plane to be able to play. And then, it's imperative that not only is the book big, but the squares are tiny. And so you have to have a bunch of markers to hold things, and this game just doesn't require that sort of thing. If you wanted to do traditional, like shot by shot, so the first golf, you have a twosome, the first golfer goes off the tee, you can mark where they are. Second golfer goes off the tee, you can mark where they are, and then go on to the approach shot. And so you could definitely do it like that, or you could do one golfer does the whole hole, and then the next golfer does the whole hole. You can do match play. You can do a best ball. If you wanted to, you had a foursome and you wanted to play some sort of best ball, you could do that here. You just need to mark where everything is. So I think it's got all the characteristics of a golf game, and it's got all of the sort of bells and whistles that you might want, except for things like club selection or shot selection. And there may even be a way, well, there will be a way when they're actual golfers that they'll be shaping their shots, or they'll be sort of penalized left and right and stuff like that. And for how far, what kind of distance they can hit the ball. So that's I guess a brief introduction to the game. I just wanted to get it out there now that I've got several holes and it's playable, and if people are interested in playing this version of it, I'd be happy to put it out there. And you can just sort of mix and match and string the holes together. I put a little scorecard together in Excel, just a little grid of holes 1 through 9, and then just put whatever the par is, and then you just keep track of the player's score and against the total, and then you subtract their score from the total, and that'll give you what your score is for the round for the 9 holes, and then you just rinse and repeat to do another 9 holes. But you should be able to mix and match, because I have a par 3, 4, and 5, so you should be able to mix and match holes to create. It wouldn't be very realistic necessarily because you're replaying holes over and over, but you would be able to play an entire 18 just to see, how long that would take. And maybe I can do that with a couple of golfers and just keep that score so you could see how long it takes. But just walking through this, it probably only takes 30 seconds for a golfer to play a hole, but you're playing every shot on the hole. I mean, we could try right now and see how many seconds it takes. Can't see where we are. We're at 30. What was it, 33 minutes? 32 minutes and 50 seconds. So should be about 34:30 when this is finished. So 4-6 in the middle. That's going to be a 6-6 and dead center. So dead center of the green, 6-6 is going to be a long putt. That's a 9-6, 9 and 6. That's going to be a long putt that's in for a birdie. So just like that, the hole is finished, and we are at 34:30. So it's about a half a minute for a hole for one golfer. So 2 golfers, 1 hole, 1 minute or so, maybe a minute and 15 seconds because you have to write down the scores. But nothing complicated to figure out. Simple math. Add 1, subtract 1, etc. And then, that puts you at 18 or 20 minutes for 2 golfers to play an entire round. So it's going to be a pretty quick game, maybe 25 minutes at the most. And if you have a scorecard in Excel that's already set up to do all the addition and adding and everything for you, maybe 20, 25 minutes to play a round with 2 golfers, not 1. With 1 golfer, half that, right? So about 10 minutes, which is a far cry. It can take 10 minutes to play 1 hole of golf from what I've seen. So it's, you're cutting your playing time down severely but still being based on shot by shot, still watching everything play out, still having all of the sort of key aspects of golf. So hopefully it gets you excited. I'm excited to continue to build out courses. I'm about to finish Quick Play Baseball. This is my baseball channel, so I don't mind talking about Quick Play Baseball here, but I've got one more era left, the live ball era, which is 1920 to 1941. And so that's the sort of the Ruthian era, Ruth and Gehrig and some of the greater pitchers from back in the day. And that's gonna be coming up. Probably maybe by the weekend I can finish. We'll see. It doesn't take a super long time to finish those out. Really, what I'm trying to do now is make sure that all I have to do is that the batters and the pitchers have headings. So each team, when it starts, that team's batters, it has the stat headings on it. And then when the pitchers start, it has the stat headings. So it's just a little bit more time and effort to put the batters and pitchers categorized by team, categorized by year, and then each of them has their own headings. So that just takes a little bit of like copy and paste time. There's no formulaic way to do it. It's a bit of a pain in the neck, but I think it's going to make for a stronger roster sheet, because then you can just print off the teams that you want and they'll be right there mostly together. So I think that that has been something that gamers have called for. So I'm trying to oblige, because I'm doing the entirety of baseball. So 1901 to 2022. Because I'm trying to do the entirety of baseball, I'm trying to make this set as good and complete as possible, so that then you can either purchase all the seasons together in a bundle, or you can purchase the eras that you want, and then you have those neatly sort of apportioned on the roster sheets. So it takes a little bit more time, but hopefully it's worth it. Once I finish, my thought is always, once I finish, I'm finished. So I can't. The stats aren't changing, from 1922. So once I complete, if I just do it well, I'll be finished. And then, it has all the ratings. The ratings are not going to change. The player stats are not going to change. The players themselves are not going to change. So I feel like once I finish that, then it's kind of like, okay, let's just put the work into it and do it well as I can. And then, you won't have to necessarily go back and keep doing it all the time. So that's sort of my thought with historic seasons. Just try to do it as well as you can. And so that is going to be finishing soon. And then once I get that off my plate, it's on to No Huddle Football. No Huddle Football is sort of a fast play, medium play football game, similar to what I'm doing here, similar to what I'm doing with Quick Play, trying to find the medium ground in this sport. Football can take a very long time to play. No Huddle Football doesn't take as long, maybe an hour to an hour and a half to play an entire game, play by play. Or you can take a lot less than that if you do sort of the quicker playing version with just the team stats. But if you want to do player stats, you can get all the stats with penalties, with punts, with everything, in probably an hour and a half to 2 hours, something like that. So a little bit faster. You could probably shave an hour off of a game, and plays very easily. And there's not a lot of figuring things out or adding this or doing that, or it's pretty straightforward as far as the game is concerned. Again, it's just using simple combinations of dice and these large team sheets that we have for the football, each football team. And then there's sort of a player finder function. If you want to go on to find the Advanced Stats Football channel, it's not Advanced Stats Football, it's called No Huddle Football, but there's a playlist on there for No Huddle Football. So you can check that out, and that'll be coming out hopefully by the time training camp hits for real, when everybody shows up to training camp in whatever that is, July or August. And then once the football season gets into swing, I'm hoping to have it already available for purchase. That way you can play out the 2022 season, which was last season. But That'll be the first one available. And don't have any plans for historic seasons. It will be enough to do each season as it completes. There's quite a bit of doing the work by hand, and so but I think once I get the first season done, I should have the template of all the teams, the colors. There's a lot of things that won't necessarily be super different because they're not adding new teams and stuff like that. So that is what's on the plate next. I'm about almost halfway through, almost completed with the AFC. So I just need to do the AFC West, and then I'll be finished with the AFC, and then on to the NFC. So I'm about halfway through. The team's a little less than halfway through. So hopefully I can do, 1, 2, 3 of those a day and just kind of knock it out and be done with it in a month or so. Then it's just putting together. One thing that people don't realize is all the other stuff that has to happen. So creating the game is one thing. Creating the game in a format that can be given to people is a whole other thing. And then creating the mechanism by which people can get the game is a whole other part. And then creating the marketing. So there's always like something. There's not just one something. There's always multiple somethings. And, getting people to test the game. And then when they test it, they invariably at the very end say, oh, hey, maybe you should change this. And it's a great change, but it's going to make you go through and change everything. So you have to rethink stuff always toward the end. Sometimes that's why people wait. They gather all those changes and make a version 2. Because it's just easier to wait and do it all in another version. So making the game is only about a third to a quarter of what you see. You're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, but it's all the other stuff. How do you deliver the game to people? How do they pay for it? You got to set up payment systems and that kind of stuff. So it can be a lot. So when I say I'm almost finished with creating the seasons. I've created the game. The game seems great and very playable, and people have enjoyed it who've played the demo that I sent out to them, and I've taken their suggestions and added those in. But there's just more. And so once you create the game, now you gotta do the business side of it and make sure. And thankfully, I've done so many of these now that I have a pretty good idea of what direction I'm going, but still have to create a logo. There's a little bit of branding for it. And it's my business. It's what I do at times. And so it's not super duper hard, but you still have to come up with the concepts, and you got to whittle it down and come up with an actual mark or some sort of branding for the game. So a little inside dope for you there. And maybe this golf game will be ready by the end of the year. I don't know. It's just at the beginning stages, and I can see it's already changed a lot. I was doing 2 6-sided dice, 1 10-sided die for the direction, but it wasn't providing it was providing a little bit too much variance maybe in the left to right, so that if you added a golfer attribute, it wouldn't be as steady. So having the 2 6-sided die, 2 sets of 6-sided die, then you are able to create more of a steady center line. And then off of that center line, you can put people's attributes either going forward and backward or left and right on the course. That way you can create a little bit more predictable results and not quite so much variance in the left to right. So forward and back distance wasn't a problem because I was using the 2 D6 dice. But I wanted to create a little bit more stability in the horizontal direction. So that was the thought behind the 2 pairs of D6 dice. And so hopefully that's going to help in the end to create a more realistic or stable kind of game and less arcadey feeling, but more accurate. We'll see about the accuracy. I'm trying to do my best to choose yardages that are actual in the PGA, and approach shots. And, the course is a copy, but I'm actually creating the graphics. So, and using an old style of this course. This course has been updated many times over. It's a very famous course, and so it's been updated many times over. And so I found a visual reference for the original course, and so I figure maybe using the original course design would sort of keep me farther away from any sort of copyright infringement. I certainly don't want to infringe on copyright, but I think most of the time people do want to play something familiar. And so hopefully it'll be familiar enough. You'll be like, oh, that seems like hole number 1, but maybe it's not. It doesn't look exactly the same. That's why it won't look exactly the same. Is because I'm actually going through the whole design and then, creating my own image. So basically making a copy. If I was looking at a tree and then painting it, that is basically what I'm doing. So something like that. So hopefully, I'm not infringing on anything. By doing that, I'm not going to use any names for real. And hopefully it'll be just on the up and up as much as possible. I don't think I have the money to license PGA golf courses. And I doubt that this game is going to ever make enough money to justify something like that. That's not going to be the thing that puts it over the top. So, doing my best to stay on the right side of the law. I never want to even really get close to that line, so I try my best to research those things. Okay, well, that's a lot of rambling, but that gives you a little idea about the future and how far out this game is. We are on the approach shot of this game. Teed off, and we're getting ready to hit our second shot. If you want to put it in metaphorical terms. So there's quite a bit left before we get to the finish line, to the hole. So, but hopefully it gets you a little bit excited about a vision and a direction for maybe a different kind of golf game. It feels like something called Thinking Man's Golf. Someone brought that up on the Facebook group, one of the Facebook groups I'm in. And they said, well, there's one called Thinking Man's Golf from Sports Illustrated, or 3M from back in the day. And it's got some similarities to that. Not exactly the same, but more along that kind of vein than an APA or ASG. So you can see it's a little bit more abstracted than even that Thinking Man's Golf. It's just sort of a visual, Minecrafty, abstracted representation of golf. And hopefully that speeds up the game, which will hopefully open up a market for more casual golfers or golfers that love golf games, but they're looking for something that's somewhere in between somewhere in between roll dice, get a score, and roll dice, wait 5 minutes, hit the second shot, wait 5 more minutes, hit the third shot. Something a little bit faster than that. And maybe it'll even stream a little bit better. Hopefully it comes across that it streams a little bit better. Even as I'm playing in here, golf is kind of notoriously hard to stream. So maybe that'll be helpful to get it onto people's channels a little bit more. Okay, I think that's enough. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can click subscribe. I have On Base Advanced, Quick Play Baseball, and then anything else that I'm working on, I sort of dump onto this channel before I go and create a new channel for the games. I've got 2 basketball games out now, up-tempo basketball and triple threat basketball. Each of those is a little bit different, but kind of runs around the same space, trying to not necessarily abstract the sport, but speed it up, cut a few corners, and speed up the game while still giving you the flavor, still giving you access to individual players. No Huddle will be coming out soon. And I've got a couple of other baseball games. Quick Pitch comes from more of a defense pitching perspective, which is kind of interesting. I have a theory about, pitchers are the ones actually in control of the at-bat. So just testing that theory out, really. There's 3 seasons. They're all totally free. Thousands of players that you can just get for free. Plus some other cool little goodies that are on this site. And then the Game of Dice Baseball, which is sort of an homage to sort of an APBA style, APBA era, early dice baseball game. But it's got a really fun sort of conditional system. So some rolls, if the player's stat is this or higher, or this or lower, then there's a result. And if not, then there's sort of a default result that happens. So trying to set a default chart, and then for those fringe players, creating some conditional statements that include those. There are, several people who have really taken to the Game of Dice Baseball. Maybe it would be something that you would be interested in. I've got several, almost 20 seasons through the 70s and 80s, and a little bit into the 60s as well, about half of the 1960s. So if that's your jam, if that's your era from 60 to 90, then you should check out the Game of Dice Baseball. Super easy to play. Every player is carded. I tried to meet actual. I listened to some YouTubers. There was a whole thing going around a couple months ago where they were saying, well, these are the things that gamers really want. I really paid attention and listened and felt like I created a game that met almost every single one of those. There's a lot of depth in the game. There are rare or unusual plays for almost everything. It's a really unique and interesting game, so you should check it out. And lots of people have really been enjoying that game. So, but subscribe to the channel and you'll get notified. If you click the little bell icon, you'll get a notification every time I post a video, and that way you won't have to worry if I'm posting or anything like that. Just as an FYI, I'm also scheduled to be on the, and maybe I'll do a little bit more of this either before or after. I'm scheduled to be a part of the Saber Gaming Committee, I think is what it's called, for Saber.org, the sabermetrics organization that studies baseball and studies sabermetrics, and they have a journal, and so they've invited me to come on to their show, and some others like Clay Dreslock and Mark. I can't remember Mark's last name, but he created Digital Diamond Baseball. So some others have gone on to the show, just sort of express or explain their games, process, and answer any questions about their games. But it's specifically a committee dedicated to baseball gaming. And so whether it's video or tabletop, either one. And so it's pretty cool. I'll go on there on June 1st. And so that'll be an interesting thing. And when the video comes out, I'll make sure to share it around. But have a chance to talk about On Base and On Base Advanced specifically. Those are my most heavily sabermetric games. So just trying to see, are there people I can connect with? Those seem like my people as far as baseball games, or it's gaming, it's baseball, it's sabermetrics. That seems to make sense, as all my games are, they're rated based on sabermetric stats, except for the Game of Dice Baseball. But even there, I'm using FIP, I'm not using ERA. So there are some, even that I can't get away from it. So I just think that it creates more accuracy. It gives me a level of detail that you can't get from sort of traditional stats. So that'll be coming up soon. I also wrote a an article for Sports Sim Magazine for up-tempo basketball. So 4,000 or 5,000 word article about the game, explaining where it came from, sort of the origins of up-tempo, and thought process for what I was doing with the game, and then also a sort of a how to play. So if you're not familiar with up-tempo, maybe it'll reach a bigger audience going through Sports Sim Magazine. And hopefully that will help the game a little bit. I've got several seasons, including a couple of ABA seasons. But 80s, 90s, 2000s, and I need to finish, and that's another project for the summer, is to work on the season that just ended. So we're in the playoffs now for the 23 season. But I need to do the regular season for that. Shouldn't take a super long time for one season. I can usually knock those out in a couple of days. I've got some automated kind of things going on in my spreadsheets that makes it a little bit easier, and hopefully can just get that busted out, because I have the 22 season available. So not this one that just finished, but the one before. So I'll just use that as a template. A lot of things have been set up. Should make that quite a bit easier, including some of the players even being the same. So it doesn't take a super long time for that. And still feeling out college basketball for up-tempo. Still trying to get the timing right on that, but I haven't worked on it for a while. So maybe sometime in the fall or the winter, when college basketball is going on, I can kind of look at that and provide some teams for purchase as we approach March Madness next year or something like that. So I think college basketball fits very well. It just, the timing of the clock and stuff like that is different. Some of the rules are different. So just got to make some of those changes for NCAA play. Okay, I think that's enough talking, enough rambling. Get a chance to just look at this golf game. If you want to play it, you can leave me a comment. You can reach out to me on Facebook or Messenger or whatever, and I'd be happy to send you these 5 holes, and you can sort of play it yourself. I don't have any rules written up or anything like that, but it's right now how I've played it is how I've been playing it, sort of straight up. No penalties for being in the rough and stuff like that, but maybe you can think of some good penalties. Not penalty shots, but just, penalizing the player for being in the rough, that kind of thing. All right, I think that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.